Okay, so codominance and blood type genetics. We've talked a little bit about polygenetics, which is the fact that most human traits, or most human genetics are polygenetics, like our eye color and hair color are determined by more than one gene. And so regular law of dominance is like we talked about with Mendel and the pea plants, where one allele, like one letter, capital H, lowercase h, would determine that the color of a flower. Well, with codominance, two letters together are equally dominant. And so blood type is something that we use as a common example of that. So let's quickly go over blood type. All right, so these are the phenotypes and genotypes, and they look confusing because we're just using eyes. But if you look at them and practice them for a couple minutes, they come really quick. I think if you look at MCAS, you'll see you generally don't need to memorize these, but being familiar with them does not hurt. And remembering that blood type is an example of codominance is something you need to know. So if memorizing this chart gets you there, then that's a good thing to know. So you'll notice right off the bat here that for blood type AB, the big I stands for immunoglobulin, which is a blood factor. So that's what the I's are for, but you can kind of ignore them, but they're there. So don't let them distract you. We're really looking at them like we did with the sex-linked traits. So we're going by these superscript letters, and the little i's just represent this little recessive trait with the O, type O blood. So AB blood has A and B together, and they're codominant. They're equally dominant, and that's why we have both A and B in the blood type. So for the other ones, for type O blood, which is a little bit different, we have the two lowercase i's. And that allele also shows up with type A and type B. And it is recessive, so that if we have type A blood, we can have homozygous dominant with two capital letter I's with two capital A's, and a capital letter I, capital letter A with lowercase I. And the same is true for type B. So the lowercase I is a recessive allele. Okay? And the way we apply these to problems, as long as I'm saying, like if you copy down this chart right now, just pause, and if you don't have it in front of you, just copy it down. And by the time you copy it down, you'll have it memorized. It's that simple. Then you'll be able to do a whole bunch of problems with them. This is kind of a typical problem. If a mother with A blood has a baby with B blood, what are the possible genotypes of the father? And you want to be always careful about genotypes and phenotypes. So remember that phenotype is physical characteristic, and genotypes are the actual letters, okay, the alleles. So, so the possible genotypes for mom, if she's type A, she can have either homozygous dominant with capital I, capital A, capital I, capital A, or she can have capital I, capital A, and lowercase I, and for the baby being type B, similar. Okay? So if you want to pause and try to figure out the genotypes of the father, so if you think about it, if the baby has type B blood, the way that I think about it is that I know that I need to bring in the B allele somehow. So if I'm going to make a Punnett square with one of these genotypes, it's got to bring in the B allele in order to create one of these. Okay, so I knew that if I used homozygous dominant, like up here, it would be pretty tricky to end up with anything but a lot of homozygous dominant down below. So I tried it right away with a heterozygous condition. And I decided to bring in the B allele by trying type AB blood, and that worked. Okay, you might have found a different solution that worked, but this was the first one I tried and it worked. So I tried the father with type AB blood. So his phenotype was AB and his genotype was IAIB. And that got me to have IBI for the child. And so that's an example of blood type with a problem. And so that's a typical blood type example. So for my tests, for the final, I would probably give you the chart or the genotype, but I'll let you know if you need to memorize it. And for MCAS, they want you to remember that it's about codominance for sure. And they may have you work these out. I'll have to look through a few more of the old problems and see what I see. And we'll go through those too. Hope this helps.